Chapter 121, Martial Temple. Lin Jufeng entered the land of negative energy and began his daily routine of signing in and quietly cultivating. If it were anyone else, they might not even be able to last a day in a place like this. The land of extreme negative energy was cold and gloomy. Buried deep underground, the land of extreme negative energy was cold and gloomy. Although spiritual energy seeped into the place from the outside, there were tombs and vengeful spirits everywhere. Without sufficient strength, one wouldn't be able to remain here for too long. As for those people who were powerful enough, they had no reason to stay in the land of extreme negative energy. Only Lin Jufeng could sign in here. Thus, the land of extreme negative energy that seemed boring to the others had countless treasures for him. He continued his daily routine in peace. Whenever he signed in, if the rewards were treasures, he would keep them. If they were treasured swords, he would store them in the sword case. If he obtained pills, he would give them to the white cat to eat. If he obtained cultivation techniques, he would cultivate in them. His strength steadily increased. Lin Jufeng was satisfied with his current status. He focused on improving himself. He didn't care about the outside world at all. Without Dakin, Lin Jufeng's only means of communication to the outside world was practically gone. He was completely cut off from the outside world. But it did not matter, however, for he had always planned on improving himself in the land of extreme negative energy. Under Emperor De's leadership, the Yuha God dynasty fully exerted its strength and influence. In the first year after Lin Jufeng entered the land of extreme negative energy, Emperor De started building martial temples on a large scale. He made it so that martial temples had grades. The lowest grade of martial temples had even spread to remote towns and villages. The martial temples were created with the will of the dynasty supporting it. Emperor De moved the royal library into the martial temples and built a huge martial temple academy beside the Wei River. Its size was enough to accommodate at least 50,000 talented students. Emperor De then asked the retired soldiers to become teachers in the martial temples located in remote villages and towns. As a result, the lack of teachers in the lowest grades of martial temples was solved. The retired and old soldiers didn't protest against this arrangement. After all, they now had a place to go and entertain themselves after their retirement. What's more, their welfare was now also in the hands of the dynasty after they retired from the army. The martial temples were built fast and they became famous throughout the world. Countless people wanted to know what the conditions were to join a martial temple. Emperor De discussed with the court officials for a long time. Bearing great pressure upon himself, he decided. Free admission. As long as they were the people of the Yuha God dynasty, their children could enter the martial temples for free as long as they wanted to. Emperor De knew that the martial temples weren't so attractive to the children of the aristocratic families or the sects. But a problem remained: these martial temples couldn't attract the attention of the aristocratic families and the sects. Despite moving the royal library into one of the martial temples, despite ordering the royal consecrators to take charge of the highly graded martial temples, these temples still couldn't attract the children of those aristocratic families and most members of the sects. Emperor De and the court officials spent a long time trying to figure out what to do. In the end, it was still the cabinet chief of 4 dynasties who remained determined. He decided, since we can't attract the descendants of those aristocratic families, we won't force them. Let's focus on the biggest group of people in the world for now. The marginalized people. Emperor De's eyes lit up. Yes, the marginalized people, the poor, or what we call those at the bottom of society. They have worked tirelessly throughout their lives. To support their families, they had no choice but to sacrifice themselves. The cabinet chief nodded. His eyes sparkled as boundless strength surged from his aged body. He was speaking for the poor, the people at the bottom of society. He was seeking benefits for them. As a scholar who had studied his entire life, he had already done all that a scholar must do. To establish one's heart for the world, to establish one's life for the living, to inherit the ultimate techniques for the sake of rebirth, and to establish peace for all generations to come. Your Majesty, everyone knows how talented the children of those aristocratic families are. That's right, they are talented, but the children of aristocratic families were born with resources that others would never be able to obtain in their entire lives. No matter how talented they are, we can't rope them to our side. Only the common people at the bottom of society and only the billions of marginalized people are the future of the Yuha God dynasty. The cabinet chief solemnly stated. Among the descendants of the aristocratic families, 1 in 100 can become a genius. If nurtured properly, they will eventually become a cornerstone of their family. The commoners and the marginalized people cannot compare to them. But we just need one genius out of 1,000. If this isn't possible, then one genius out of 10,000 is still enough. According to this ratio, we can crush the aristocratic families and the sects with sheer numbers. As long as we can withstand the pressure and nurture them carefully, they will be the future of the Yuha God dynasty. In this golden era, the survival of the Yuha God dynasty into the next generations depends on the children of the poor. When they grow up, the Yuha God dynasty will no longer be restricted by the wealth of the aristocratic families and the deterrence of the sects. The cabinet chief enthusiastically shared his ideals. The reason for allowing every person from all walks of life to enter the martial temples for free wasn't for altruism, but for the sake of reaping benefits for the dynasty in the future. Emperor De was invigorated. He instantly made a decision. Okay, anyone is allowed to enroll for free. As long as they are the people of the Yuha God dynasty, no matter who they are, as long as they are not more than 18 years old, they can enter a martial temple to study, cultivate, and test their talents. Your Majesty is wise. This is a reform that will benefit the nation and the people for thousands of years to come. The cabinet chief knelt in respect. The court officials all cheered. Your Majesty is wise. Emperor De muttered in his heart, I just don't want to see the Yuha God dynasty being constantly threatened by the aristocratic families and the sects. That's all. In Lin Jufeng's first year in the land of extreme negative energy, martial temples were built and were widely promoted. More than 10 million humble-class students enrolled in the first year of their establishment. They were distributed in the various martial temples in the Yuha God dynasty. This result made Emperor De excited. Emperor De also built a wordless monument for Lin Jufeng in every martial temple of the Yuha God dynasty. The wordless in the wordless monument meant that words weren't necessary to express Lin Jufeng's contributions to the world. This wordless monument stood in front of every martial temple. Every student that walked into a martial temple would always see it as they walked by. Lin Jufeng's display of might when he killed those supremacies last year silenced the entire world. Emperor De took advantage of this respite to establish the martial temples. His move displeased the aristocratic families and the sects. But none of them dared to stop him. They didn't dare to do so. They were afraid that Lin Jufeng would draw his sword and annihilate them. But what they didn't know, however, was that Lin Jufeng was already in seclusion in the land of extreme negative energy. He was hard at work on improving his cultivation base. In his first year in the land of extreme negative energy, he cultivated in the Yin-Yang Mandara Great Domain to further bolster his strength. He corrected the path that he had taken wrongly in the past and he managed to expand his domain several times than its previous size. Even now, it was still expanding. Both Lin Jufeng and Emperor De gained a lot this year. Lin Jufeng gained strength while Emperor De gained talents. The second year. The third year. The fourth year. The fifth year. For 5 consecutive years, the world remained relatively quiet. Lin Jufeng's deterrence when he killed those 15 supremacies with a sword move forced the world into silence for 5 years. These 5 years bought Emperor De a lot of time. He built martial temples, groomed students, recruited powerhouses, established the uniformed royal guards, and established the dark net. He prepared sets after sets of treasured items and planned spies in various tumultuous regions. Emperor De sat upright in the Forbidden City. Using the world as a chessboard, he began to play chess. The emperor's aura on him had become even more domineering in the 5 years that passed. He had grown so wise that his schemes had become unfathomable. Even Princess Yulin found it hard to know what this brother of hers wanted to do when she saw him. But as long as it was for the good of the Yuha God dynasty and for the welfare of the people, she would always support him. Sister, when are you going to make a breakthrough into the supremacy realm? Emperor De asked Princess Yulin. I'm waiting for a spring rain, Princess Yulin replied with a faint smile. The so-called spring rain was an opportunity for her. She needed an opportunity, an epiphany, to become a supremacy. Chapter 122, God's Domain. Princess Yulin had been studying Lin Jufeng's sword strike for the past 5 years. The more she understood, the weaker she felt. This weakness existed in her own understanding. But she could not be blamed for she had never known what true power was. As a result, she didn't know that she was weak. In the past, Princess Yulin thought that among the cultivators in this world, she was relatively strong. But after seeing Lin Jufeng's sword strike, she realized how ignorant she was. Hence, Princess Yulin decided to cultivate diligently. She traveled the world in the past 5 years. She didn't stay in the Yuha god dynasty nor stayed behind closed doors to cultivate. She walked past the misty lands of Zhongnan holding an oil paper umbrella. Her skirt slightly fluttered in the wind. She walked across the plains outside the dynasty and went to Wolf Story Mountain where she once fought for her freedom. She traveled far and wide, paying her respects to the Tao ancestors in the famous mountains and great rivers of the Taoist sects. Under the 10,000 Buddha sacred tower, she prayed softly and wished that Buddha protected Lin Jufeng. 5 years later, she returned to the imperial capital to see her brother. In the past 5 years of traveling the world, how many sights have you seen? Emperor De lovingly looked at his younger sister. A smile was on his face. The shrewd Emperor De in the eyes of the world had become gentle before Princess Yulin. In the past 5 years, countless people had come to ask for her hand in marriage. The descendants of aristocratic families, sect geniuses, hegemons from other countries, and even the rising talents of the Yuha god dynasty. They were all charmed by Princess Yulin's beauty. For her hand in marriage, they even promised to only take her as their wives for their entire lives. But Emperor De rejected them all. If Princess Yulin doesn't want to marry, then she shan't marry in her entire life. She has her family to accompany her if she feels lonely. The signal that Emperor De gave to the world was that he very much doted on Princess Yulin. This pair of siblings had deeply loved each other for more than 30 years. Since the time they were born, they have cared for each other. Even now, their love and care for each other still existed. Brother Emperor, the major sects in the world have changed hands a few times in the years that passed. It's very hard to understand what belongs to who now and whose territory belonged to whom, Princess Yulin explained. Every famous mountain and even the great rivers of the Taoist sects have changed owners. All sorts of terrifying sects have emerged one after another, including the Essence Chi sect in the plains, the Temple of Gods in the wild lands, the 6 paths of the demonic sects, and the 10,000 Buddha sacred tower of the Buddhist sects. Princess Yulin wore a solemn look. Emperor De looked up into the sky and sighed. That's right. The recovery rate of the world's spiritual energy had increased so fast that even though I have no spare time to cultivate, I still managed to make a breakthrough into the human god realm with the help of a few treasures. It seems that those terrifying sects have started to notice this change and they are now making their presence known to this world, one after another. Especially the Quan Zhen sect of the Taoist sects. I heard that immortals once existed in this sect in the past. I reckon that they would be too strong for this world if they reappeared. Princess Yulin added. It's not just the Taoist sects. You've also been to the 10,000 Buddha sacred tower that recently appeared, right? Bodhisattvas and Arhats live there. 2 of the 3 Buddhist sects in the Zhongnan area have already sided with them. Emperor De was full of worries. There's also the 6 paths of reincarnation of the demonic sects. They are yet again, another bunch of terrifying experts. The appearance of various priests and their temples in the wild lands has further divided the world. There's also the hidden forces and the terrifying existences overseas. I also heard rumors that the Essence Chi god in the plains is about to return. With all of these added up, it would be surprising if the world right now wouldn't be chaotic. The only thing that we can do is to do our best to stabilize the Yuha god dynasty and nurture geniuses. This way, we can buy enough time until Big Grand Uncle returns. Emperor De shared his worries with his sister. Although he was the emperor, he wasn't that powerful, to begin with. Now that he didn't have Lin Jufeng's support, he was really afraid of making a mistake that would spell the end of the dynasty. But he couldn't tell anyone else about his worries. He had to keep it in his heart and make plans for the world. He had to continue the fate of a scheming and shrewd emperor. No one has to know that he was scared deep inside. If he made a mistake, he would lose everything. The entire Yuha god dynasty might very well collapse in his reign. Brother Emperor, since I've already returned, I won't be leaving anymore. Princess Yulin smiled. Good, very good. It's a great coincidence that you returned this time. Recently, the Zenith Heaven Path sect is on the move once again. They have always been making a few small moves here and there, but it seems that they still have no idea that I already know everything about their schemes. I was just worried that no one could deal with them. Emperor De sneered. The Zenith Heaven Path sect has made a fortune in secret. I wonder, just how much of their original strength have they recovered by now? We have to be careful in dealing with them. Princess Yulin advised. It's fine. I have my own ways to deal with the Zenith Heaven Path sect. They are so close to the imperial capital, yet they still want to jump around. What a joke. Emperor De coldly snorted. Since you've just returned, you should rest for a few days and accompany Mother for a while. Then afterwards, I want you to make a trip to the Zenith Heaven Path sect and coerce them into depositing all of their secret manuals into our martial temples. Emperor De said. They'll be mad. Princess Yulin looked at Emperor De in surprise. To coerce a sect into publicizing their secret manuals and techniques. That was an offense, no less than trying to annihilate their sect itself. I won't give them a chance to be mad. Just do what I say. I will handle everything, Emperor De said confidently. The war machine that Lin Jufeng gave to him 5 years ago had remained in seclusion for the past 5 years. It continuously absorbed spiritual energy as it did its best to recover its original strength. After 5 years, it was about time for it to make a move. Our enemies have become restless once again after these 5 years of peace. If we suppress the Zenith Heaven Path sect this time, that would be akin to killing 2 birds with 1 stone. All right, I shall use them to intimidate our enemies. Our enemies should just fight each other in the cultivation world. As long as they do not deliberately provoke the Yuha God dynasty, there should be no problems. Emperor De silently thought. It was time to reveal the trump card that Lin Jufeng gave to him back then. 5 years passed in the cold palace. Dust and cobwebs were everywhere. After being uninhabited for such a long time, it wasn't strange that it became like this. Without Lin Jufeng and the White Cat, the cold palace lost its sense of life and its condition rapidly deteriorated. Deep underground, in the land of extreme negative energy. Lin Jufeng never once went out in the past 5 years. His strength rapidly improved as he continuously signed in and received valuable treasures, day after day. But most of them were consumed by the White Cat. Speaking of the White Cat, she successfully made a breakthrough into the Grotto Heaven realm. Lin Jufeng also managed to receive a divine grade Grotto Heaven as a daily reward. He immediately gave it to the White Cat. Lin Jufeng treated the White Cat very well. He exerted a lot of energy when he opened up the White Cat's Grotto Heaven and integrated it with the divine grade Grotto Heaven that he gave the White Cat. As a result of his actions, the White Cat's potential was greatly increased. Her cultivation base's foundation had also become deeper. This way, the White Cat could be like Lin Jufeng. She could walk the path of strengthening her one and only Grotto Heaven. She did not have to form other Grotto Heavens to advance in her cultivation. Today, Lin Jufeng visited a tomb. Sign in, Lin Jufeng said. Sign in successful. Received 4 symbols Purgatory Array. A huge formation blueprint and 4 statues appeared in Lin Jufeng's hands. The 4 symbols symbolized the vermilion bird, the azure dragon, the black tortoise, and the white tiger. When the 4 statues and the formation blueprint were activated, a huge array formation would appear. It's a pity that it isn't too useful to me. The White Cat also has no use for this either. Lin Jufeng shook his head and stored the array into his domain. It's time for me to make a breakthrough into an even higher realm, Lin Jufeng muttered. He had already cultivated his domain to an extremely terrifying level. According to the introduction of the Yin-Yang Mandara Great Domain technique, Lin Jufeng discovered that his domain had surpassed every domain ever recorded. With his domain not having a name, Lin Jufeng himself gave it a name. God's domain. The meaning behind the name was simple. In his domain, he was a god. An omnipotent god. The land of extreme negative energy was not a place of peace. There were many dangers hidden in its corners. Attacks from ghosts. Attacks from evil spirits. Attacks from soul remnants. But all of these combined couldn't compare to Lin Jufeng's God's domain. If anything were to attack, Lin Jufeng only needed to activate his God's domain. All evil would vanish without a trace. Lin Jufeng was invincible in the land of extreme negative energy. But he continued his routine of signing in quietly and cultivating in peace. He was neither anxious nor impatient as he steadily advanced his cultivation base. He was a man of his words when it came to matters of the outside world. He really didn't ask nor worry about them. Even if the outside world was in a mess, he also wouldn't care or ask about it. He believed in Emperor De and the Zenith Heaven Path sect's war machine. Emperor De, whom Lin Jufeng trusted, has been targeting the Deluo Dao for the past few days. After 5 years of constant development, the Zenith Heaven Path sect's overall strength rapidly improved. They dug out many of their sect elders from the previous era, especially those at the Supremacy realm. The return of these people strengthened the prestige of the sect. They began to infiltrate the Yuha God dynasty as high-ranking officials. Perhaps it was because those with great power wouldn't bother to use their brains. Their methods were extremely crude, allowing Emperor De to see through them at a glance. The Zenith Heaven Path sect's ambitions were wild. Some of the spies arranged by Emperor De had also infiltrated deeply into the Zenith Heaven Path sect. 2 of them became core disciples, and more importantly, the Zenith Heaven Path sect still hadn't discovered their existence. Perhaps they felt that Emperor De wouldn't dare to do such a thing, or perhaps they felt that they were powerful enough as long as they weren't going up against that old monster in the imperial capital. They felt that they would definitely be fine. Powerful people were confident. Confident people were often conceited. This was a principle that remained unchanged since time immemorial. The Zenith Heaven Path sect disdained to use these scheming methods. In the entire Yuha God dynasty, other than Lin Jufeng who was living in seclusion, no one else was worthy of their attention. Under their coercion and bribery, more than 100 officials in the imperial capital sided with the Zenith Heaven Path sect. Emperor De secretly got his people to investigate these officials for these few days. At night, Forbidden City, Great Council Hall. Emperor De sat in the dark and cold hall. There was no lamplight. Moonlight shone in and illuminated Emperor De's face. Half of the hall was bright, the other half was dark. In the bright area stood Princess Yulin. In the darkness, shadow scouts hid in the dark as they made their report. Your Majesty, we have investigated all 122 officials controlled by the Zenith Heaven Path sect within the imperial capital. Among them, 50 have completely sided with the Zenith Heaven Path sect. They have been thoroughly corrupted. The remaining 50 are neutral. They are indecisive. They are being blackmailed by the Zenith Heaven Path sect, or some of their families are now under the Zenith Heaven Path sect's control. 22 senior officials have also been brainwashed by the Zenith Heaven Path sect to become their puppets. The Shadow Scout said. When Emperor De and Princess Yulin heard the report, their faces simultaneously darkened. To think that there would be so many officials under their control. Emperor De was so angry that he gnashed his teeth. His voice turned completely cold. And this is only because the Zenith Heaven Path had only started taking action recently. It's because they are afraid of the Yuha God dynasty's guardian deity that only so few officials are under their control. Princess Yulin added. We must teach Zenith Heaven Path sect a lesson. Sister, you have to go. Emperor De looked at Princess Yulin. All right. Princess Yulin nodded. She also wanted to teach the Zenith Heaven Path sect a lesson. Take this person with you. I will teach you the method to control him. Emperor De stretched out his hand and pointed. A stream of information entered Princess Yulin's mind. He did not remain secretive with his method of controlling the war machine. He directly told Princess Yulin about it. Princess Yulin's eyes lit up. She looked at Emperor De and said in surprise. So this is your trump card. Emperor De nodded. Then I shall go now. We will definitely suppress the Zenith Heaven Path sect today. Princess Yulin turned around and left the Great Council Hall. She soared to the skies. Boom. She didn't hide her aura at all. Her aura directly filled the sky and transformed into a resplendent sword light that shot into the Zenith Heaven Path sect's mountaintop. With the return of many powerhouses, the members of the Zenith Heaven Path sect became confident. They built the mountaintop in a very imposing manner, truly having the appearance of a large sect. In the winding mountain range, there were pavilions and buildings. In the immortal mist, there were mountains, waterfalls, and purple bamboos. In recent years, the Zenith Heaven Path sect had also recruited a few thousand disciples and taught them diligently. The sect was booming. Their ambitions gradually inflated as they set their eyes on the Yuha God dynasty. They made their plans in advance to thoroughly infiltrate the imperial capital of the Yuha God dynasty. Then, once their moles became successful enough in their official positions, they would launch a coup. But Emperor De saw through all of these. Boom. Princess Yulin's aura was very conspicuous in the night. In the Zenith Heaven Path sect, dozens of auras rose rapidly in response. Who dares to barge here during the night and challenge the Zenith Heaven Path sect? How dare you provoke the Zenith Heaven Path? A woman at the Grotto Heaven realm dares to come and provoke our Zenith Heaven Path. The powerhouses who had just returned to their sect angrily rebuked. They were about to act and defeat Princess Yulin. In their eyes, a Grotto Heaven realm cultivator wasn't worth mentioning at all. But at the crucial moment, sect leader Luo Yu appeared. He recognized Princess Yulin and hurriedly stood out to say, "Princess Yulin has graced us with your presence. May I know your purpose for visiting us?" The appearance of sect leader Luo Yu suppressed those voices, but they still stared at Princess Yulin with dissatisfaction. They were preparing their true bodies, ready to act at any moment. Princess Yulin looked at Sect Master Luo Yu. Then, she replied with a cold look. "The Zenith Heaven Path sect infiltrated my Yuha God dynasty with the intention of rebelling. Do you dare to admit your crimes?" She went straight to the point and directly denounced them. Princess Yulin was a straightforward person after all. Sect leader Luo Yu frowned. He looked at the overbearing Princess Yulin and his attitude also became cold. He replied, "Princess Yulin, I wish that you don't talk nonsense. My Zenith Heaven Path sect has abided by every law in the Yuha God dynasty. You are just pressing false charges, so you can get rid of us." False charges? Princess Yulin sneered. She walked in the air, her clothes fluttered in the wind while her black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. Her beautiful face carried a trace of holiness to it as she replied, "You're saying that I am falsely accusing you? Then so be it. I will only give you two choices. Either the Zenith Heaven Path sect will be wiped out, or the sect will publicize every secret manual or technique in their possession and take the initiative to send them to the martial temples of my Yuha God dynasty." Sect leader Luo Yu's face instantly turned as cold as winter. His gaze focused on Princess Yulin. His fury ignited. Making a sect that had existed for thousands of years to contribute all their secret manual and cultivation techniques was no different from destroying the sect itself. What an arrogant little girl. The Yuha God dynasty is just a secular dynasty, yet it dares to be so arrogant. You are seeking death. If you dare to make the Zenith Heaven Path sect offer up our cultivation techniques and secret manuals, you will never make it out of here alive. In an instant, the entire Zenith Heaven Path sect exploded in anger. A Supremacy Realm expert instantly rushed out and raised his hand to strike. A domain instantly enveloped the area. He directly aimed to take Princess Yulin's life. He was furious. This sudden attack of Princess Yulin directly broke the people's trust in the Zenith Heaven Path sect. Boom! A dark domain smashed down. It instantly restricted Princess Yulin's movements. Die! An old man's cold voice came from the Zenith Heaven Path sect. Sect leader Luo Yu only watched on indifferently. He didn't stop them. But he seemed to be worried as he glanced in the direction of the imperial capital. Yes. He was worried that the mysterious guardian deity of the God dynasty would take action. But as Princess Yulin's movements were restricted, the imperial capital remained silent. Sect leader Luo Yu gradually relaxed. But in the very next moment, his eyes widened in disbelief. Princess Yulin sneered. A 3-meter-tall giant suddenly rushed out from behind her. Its palm struck down like lightning. Boom! The mountain gate that the entire Zenith Heaven Path sect had painstakingly built exploded. The dark domain was also shattered with a slap. Pooh! An old man spat out a mouthful of blood. His face became as pale as a dead man's. His pupils widened as he uttered in horror. That is our war machine. With a single palm, the entire Zenith Heaven Path sect trembled as it was suppressed. The glorious and imposing mountain gate disappeared in an instant. It turned into dust. The ground split apart, and a mountain peak directly collapsed. The many people in the Zenith Heaven Path sect were all shocked and they flew out at once. Especially the old man who attacked. His dark domain was directly shattered. Not only did he vomit large mouthfuls of blood, but he also discovered a terrifying fact. Ever since the day of the Zenith Heaven Path sect's recovery, they had been constantly in search of the war machine. They never once gave up. The war machine was a secret weapon of the Zenith Heaven Path sect. It was a terrifying existence that had been continuously refined by their seniors from one era to another. The Zenith Heaven Path sect couldn't give up their search for it. But despite searching for more than 10 years, they still had no news about it. The people of the Zenith Heaven Path sect gradually lost their motivation to look for the war machine. They knew that the area below the imperial capital was the land of extreme negative energy, but no one knew where exactly its entrance was. In the end, they decided to take control of the Yuha God dynasty first before they looked for the war machine once more. But who knew that this would happen? Tonight, Princess Yulin arrived with the war machine that they had been looking for. Sure enough, as soon as the war machine attacked, it displayed terrifying might. Why was the Zenith Heaven Path sect looking for the war machine? Why were they unwilling to give it up? Why was sect leader Luo Yu so confident that the Zenith Heaven Path sect wouldn't be erased out of existence as long as they had the war machine? At this moment, the answer was displayed in the attack of the war machine. Boom! The entire Zenith Heaven Path sect was shrouded in smoke and dust. In the dark night, terrifying powerhouses with profound auras stood in the air. Their faces looked ugly, to say the least. They looked at Princess Yulin, and then at the war machine that stood behind her like a huge mountain. He wore a large black jacket that covered his entire body. His face was hidden underneath a hat as he protected Princess Yulin. Although his face could not be clearly seen, he had never been a stranger to the Zenith Heaven Path sect. The war machine. He was the pride and joy of the Zenith Heaven Path sect. But now, he was standing on the opposite side of the sect. There was deep confusion in everyone's eyes. Why did the war machine of their sect fall into the hands of Princess Yulin? Sect leader Luo Yu's body trembled. He stretched out his hand and pointed a quivering finger at the war machine. The war machine that he had spent so much effort to find over the past decade was now standing before him as an enemy. Sect leader Luo Yu found it hard to accept. What was even more unacceptable to him was the news that the old Taoist priest brought. The old Taoist priest's expression looked ugly. He stepped through the air and stated, "Supremacy Chang's has died." The people of the Zenith Heaven Path sect were shocked. Sect leader Luo Yu's body trembled as he cried out, "Supremacy Chang's is one of the 9 supremacies of the Zenith Heaven Path sect. He's so powerful, but he died just like that. Their war machine killed a supremacy with a single slap." Why did Sect Master Luo Yu feel that this war machine in front of him had become even more terrifying compared to what it was from the previous era? The old Taoist priest looked at the war machine. There was hatred in his eyes, but it was mostly directed at Princess Yulin. He gritted his teeth and said, "Where did you get that war machine?" Hearing this question, the people from the Zenith Heaven Path sect stared at Princess Yulin with widened eyes. They wanted to know the answer to this question. Especially sect leader Luo Yu. He stared at her without blinking. Princess Yulin was unscathed under the protection of the war machine. Her face was cold as she looked at the Zenith Heaven Path sect powerhouses surrounding her. She remained unafraid at all. "You don't need to know where I got this war machine. All that you need to know is that from now on, the war machine belongs to the Yuha God dynasty, and me, Princess Yulin, it does not belong to the Zenith Heaven Path sect anymore," Princess Yulin said coldly. As soon as her words came out, the entire Zenith Heaven Path sect felt their hearts ache. Their eyes instantly turned red as they stared at Princess Yulin. It was like they were staring at the enemy who had killed their parents. This feeling was akin to the hatred towards an enemy who had killed their fathers or snatched their wives away. Or perhaps even more intense than those. Sect leader Luo Yu pointed at Princess Yulin and said sternly, "That is the war machine of the Zenith Heaven Path sect. It was refined by the ancestors of our Zenith Heaven Path sect generations after generations." Princess Yulin was completely unmoved. The corners of her mouth curled up. "Since he's from the Zenith Heaven Path sect, why don't you try calling him?" This attitude of hers was extremely contemptuous. Sect leader Luo Yu became so angry that he felt dizzy. He pointed at Princess Yulin and gnashed his teeth in hatred. But he didn't dare to make a move. The scene of Supremacy Chang's being killed just now with a slap was still vivid in his mind. No one in the entire sect dared to make a move. Because they understood the war machine better than anyone else. They knew how terrifying the war machine was once he started fighting. "Sect leader, calm down. The war machine once fought with the powerhouses from Quanzhen sect. Although he was at a disadvantage, he didn't lose. We aren't its match," the old Taoist priest hurriedly advised. Sect leader Luo Yu waved his hand indicating that he was calm and didn't need persuasion from anyone. "Princess Yulin, can you return the war machine to my sect?" Sect leader Luo Yu couldn't help but ask. Princess Yulin looked at sect leader Luo Yu like he was an idiot. She was too lazy to answer this stupid question. "As I said just now, I will give you 2 choices. Which one will you choose?" Princess Yulin coldly asked. Sect leader Luo Yu's face darkened again. The others looked the same. They stared at Princess Yulin as they gnashed their teeth in hatred. They clenched their fists and wished that they could directly hammer Princess Yulin to death. If she didn't have the war machine, they would have made their move right there and then. "We cannot casually give away the techniques and manuals passed down by our ancestors to us." Sect leader Luo Yu gritted his teeth and said stiffly. Then, the Zenith Heaven Path sect will no longer exist from today onwards. Princess Yulin waved her hand indifferently. The war machine took a step forward. Boom. An extremely terrifying pressure swept across the world, making it difficult for the people of the Zenith Heaven Path sect to breathe. Their faces turned pale as they watched in horror. How terrifying. The war machine was already in its peak state. Wait, sect leader Luo Yu raised his hand and yelled. He felt aggrieved as he watched the work that the Zenith Heaven Path sect was most proud of actually came to destroy its creator, the Zenith Heaven Path sect. Sect leader Luo Yu's heart was bleeding. Seeing Princess Yulin's attitude, if he didn't choose to give up all of their cultivation techniques and manuals, the Zenith Heaven Path definitely wouldn't have a good ending today. I will choose to donate every cultivation technique and secret manual of the Zenith Heaven Path sect to the martial temples. Sect leader Luo Yu had to use all his strength to finish this sentence. The members of the Zenith Heaven Path sect were moved as they looked at this scene. They opened their mouths, wanting to refute. But they knew that they couldn't do anything considering their position. The war machine was right in front of them. If they didn't make a choice, then the war machine would choose for them. It was either being destroyed or donating their cultivation techniques. After sect leader Luo Yu said these words, he seemed to have considerably aged. But Princess Yulin didn't care about these. Her eyes remained cold as her clothes fluttered. She looked like a celestial maiden that had descended to the mortal realm. Then, she said, I'll give you 3 days. 3 days later, every cultivation technique and manuals of the Zenith Heaven Path must be sent to the martial temples. If even a single technique or manual is missing, the war machine will come and destroy the Zenith Heaven Path sect. After saying this, Princess Yulin turned around and left. The war machine also left with her. They left behind a devastated Zenith Heaven Path sect and a group of powerhouses whose hearts were bleeding. Princess Yulin brought along the war machine to suppress the Zenith Heaven Path sect. She directly suppressed them to the point of depression. To donate all of their cultivation techniques and manuals to the martial temples, how humiliating was that? But they had no choice. They could only accept it without resisting. Those from the Zenith Heaven Path sect felt their hearts bleed. Their proudest war machine has forced them to do something that would betray their ancestors. Where exactly did the Yuha God dynasty dig out the war machine? In the first place, how did they manage to operate it? Sect leader Luo Yu couldn't figure out the answer to these questions no matter how hard he thought. In the Forbidden City, Princess Yulin returned with the war machine. She handed the war machine over to Emperor Da. But Emperor Da said, take it. With the war machine, you will be the new guardian deity of the Yuha God dynasty. Princess Yulin shook her head and refused. I want to make a breakthrough into the supremacy realm on my own. The war machine is a burden to me. Relying on external forces would only slow down her progress. When Emperor Da heard this, he didn't force the matter anymore. He let the war machine stand quietly in the shadows. Why can't we directly destroy the Zenith Heaven Path sect? Princess Yulin looked at Emperor Da with a puzzled look. The Zenith Heaven Path sect was obviously up to no good. Why should they not eliminate them directly? With the war machine, it would be easy to destroy the Zenith Heaven Path sect. This way, they do not have to be on guard against the Zenith Heaven Path sect anymore. Emperor Da smiled and replied, Sister, the matters of the world aren't just about fighting and killing, but also about the ways of the world. A dead Zenith Heaven Path sect is definitely advantageous to us, but they are not as useful anymore if they are gone. Princess Yulin looked at Emperor Da. She was still confused. She was obsessed with cultivation and had no idea about these complicated matters. The Zenith Heaven Path sect is like a double-edged sword. It can hurt the user and can also hurt others, but as long as the user wears armor, the Zenith Heaven Path sect can only hurt others. Manipulate the Zenith Heaven Path sect into becoming a sharp sword of the Yuha God dynasty, isn't that better than just outright killing them? Asked Emperor Da. But how are you going to control them? Princess Yulin asked. With the war machine. Emperor Da pointed with his finger and said confidently. He knew that the war machine was the target that the Zenith Heaven Path sect had been looking for all this. Using the war machine to control and mobilize the Zenith Heaven Path sect was a plan that was likely to succeed. As expected, I'm not suitable for these schemes. Princess Yulin ridiculed herself. Emperor Da looked at Princess Yulin enviously and said from the bottom of his heart said, do you also think that I like to scheme? When I was young, I loved cultivating more than you. I didn't want to be the emperor. My dream was to travel to the ends of the world with my sword and climb the great mountains of cultivation. Princess Yulin looked at her brother. She instantly knew that he was speaking from his heart. Before Princess Yulin started cultivating, Emperor De was the youngest martial sage in the dynasty, if not, the entire world. He had a promising future. But after all these years, he became obsessed with power. He plotted against the world and plotted for the people to govern the dynasty. However, the youngest martial sage 10 years ago was only at the human god realm. Sister, carry with you my dreams and overcome every obstacle on your path in the world of cultivation. Your brother Emperor will handle these dirty matters on his own. Emperor De held Princess Yulin's hand and said gently. Before Big Grand Uncle went into seclusion, I vowed that I would prove to him that I am not inferior to both Father Emperor and Grandpa Emperor. Since the Yuha God dynasty has been passed down to me, it will definitely reach its golden age. When Big Grand Uncle comes out of seclusion, this dynasty will still be the Yuha God dynasty that he once knew. Emperor De announced in a clear and loud voice. To fulfill his promise, he racked his brains and worked hard. Princess Yulin didn't say anything. But she held Emperor De's hand tightly. Time flew. In a blink of an eye, it has already been 20 years since Lin Jufeng secluded himself in the land of extreme negative energy. He gained a lot in the 20 years that passed. The cultivation techniques that Lin Jufeng received from signing in every day were transformed by him into energy that he integrated into his own comprehension of the Tao. Every cultivation technique in his possession became talismans that entered his domain, Dantian, and True Qi. Lin Jufeng only had to raise his hand and the amalgamation of tens of thousands of cultivation techniques would erupt with his will. A single strand of his True Qi now contained these terrifying cultivation techniques. Over the years, Lin Jufeng toured through the entire land of extreme negative energy. Lin Jufeng had also signed in at the tombs of the various powerhouses that had died here long ago. The top peerless techniques of the previous era were now living inside Lin Jufeng's body. Right now, even Lin Jufeng himself had no idea how powerful he was. Lin Jufeng only knew that after more than 20 years of seclusion, he finally started to understand the meaning of the word, invincible. Invincible equals Lin Jufeng. On a large rock in the land of extreme negative energy, Lin Jufeng opened his eyes. Countless cultivation techniques flitted past his eyes as they opened. In a blink of an eye, he wrapped up his cultivation of the tens of thousands of cultivation techniques that he had gathered so far. It seems that it's been 80 years since I came to this world. Lin Jufeng lamented. 80 years ago, he transmigrated into this world. His cultivation was crippled back then and he was banished to the Cold Palace. The scene of him signing in for the first time in front of the Cold Palace and receiving the ultimate heaven-slashing sword skill as a reward was still vivid in his mind. It felt as if it happened yesterday. But in reality, 80 years have passed since then. This body of his was already more than 100 years old. In these 80 years, Lin Jufeng could be said to have endured solitude and became akin to that of a carp that leapt over a dragon's gate. Especially in the previous 20+ years. He cultivated in the land of extreme negative energy where even sunlight couldn't reach. If it wasn't for the white cat accompanying him, Lin Jufeng would definitely be very lonely. Fortunately, the white cat was with him. Hence, Lin Jufeng gave the white cat all the pills and treasures that he received from signing in. The white cat's cultivation was now at the peak of the Grotto Heaven realm. She was just one step away from the Supremacy realm. After entering the Grotto Heaven realm, Lin Jufeng helped it refine the divine grade Grotto Heaven into her very own Grotto Heaven. The white cat's potential and talent greatly improved because of this. The current white cat could now easily kill an expert of the same level with a swipe of its paw. She followed Lin Jufeng and learned many of his cultivation techniques too. Meow. With a soft meow, the white cat jumped into Lin Jufeng's arms. She laid comfortably and asked, "What are you thinking about? More than 20 years have passed since we came here and secluded ourselves. I couldn't help but wonder how the outside world is now." Lin Jufeng answered honestly. "Do you want to go out?" The white cat looked at Lin Jufeng in surprise. She thought that Lin Jufeng would continue to stay here. In any case, she really liked this place. Although the place was dark and the atmosphere was conducive to sadness, she was alone with Lin Jufeng in this place. It was a world where no one bothered them and the white cat was very satisfied with it. She could enjoy Lin Jufeng's love on her own. Is the Yuha God dynasty still okay after all these years? Lin Jufeng asked. Although he gave them the war machine wasn't omnipotent. A single war machine couldn't possibly suppress the world for so long. Furthermore, the Yuha God dynasty didn't have many powerhouses to help them. Lin Jufeng reckoned that it would probably be difficult for the Yuha God dynasty to defend their territories against their enemies. Therefore, Lin Jufeng wouldn't be surprised if he really went out and saw the Yuha God dynasty in ruins, saw the birth of a new dynasty, or saw the world in chaos. Lin Jufeng was already prepared for the worst. As for what Emperor De said about protecting the Yuha God dynasty, to be honest, Lin Jufeng couldn't believe him at all. Because in the current world, Emperor De didn't have the final say. There were too many powerhouses around, he wouldn't be able to defy their will on his own.